What's up, everybody? Legacy back here with another episode of The Climb. This is episode 8, and today on the line we have Justin Jacobson of the Jacobson firm. Say what's up to everybody.
Hey, hey, how's everybody doing?
So, first off, thank you for being on the show. And as we always start off with, we start off with the how did you get to where you are, basically. So, tell me about your journey and how did you get into esports?
Well, yeah, so I've always really been involved in the entertainment industry for my whole life. I've started out, as attorney, as an entertainment and sports attorney about a decade ago. And 4 years ago, I kind of really stumbled onto, the esports and gaming world. I've always been a gamer my whole life, Nintendo, Sega, N64, PlayStation, StarCraft 2. So, it's always been part of my life. And then I kind of really, stumbled onto it and saw what was going on in the scene and began researching, who's in it, what kind of professionals are working in, and kind of found a lane for myself to kind of come in and work on both behalf of professional gamers and streamers, as well as actually teams and, brands involved in the space, whether they're, keyboard, mice, headset, or any other kind of peripheral companies.
Okay, so you work as kind of like a multifaceted person then. Like not only are you an attorney, but it kind of seems like you help deal with like partnership negotiations as well. Is that accurate?
Yeah, so I'm very much involved in all the legal and business matters related to influencers, whether they're a musician, a fashion designer, a professional athlete, or a gamer. I really help with all their legal matters, whether it's contract negotiation, business and tax stuff, visas and immigration, or really kind of helping them with their brand and partnerships, getting them logos and helping them develop their Twitch stream and essentially kind of teaching them how to operate as a professional in the gaming and esports space.
Nice, nice. Is there any like notable figures that you've gotten to, I guess, work with, or is that kind of private information?
Well, I've definitely done a bunch of, Overwatch League deals and Call of Duty Pro League. So I've done stuff with, a bunch of different teams from Energy to Optic to Rogue to the Gladiators to CLG. So, in a bunch of different games, including Fortnite, CSGO, Street Fighter, Halo, Gears of War. So, really a bunch of different games with both tier one and other level organizations.
Nice, nice. So, as esports grows, how important are viable contracts, like just really professional, polished contracts, and why are they important for not only the players but also the organizations?
I mean, I think that they're so important, especially as the amount of money goes up and as you're starting to see people making hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars a year. And from that, you have to have agreements that clearly outline everyone's rights and obligations so that, as a player, you at least have some piece of paper that's signed that says you have right to X amount of money and this salary and this is how things should be paid and on this date and whatnot. As a team owner, you have again a signed agreement that says, okay, player, you have to stream this many hours a month. This is the percentage of tournament winnings we get. This is how much we're going to pay you a month. This is how we're going to cover your expenses. We're going to provide you with room and board. We're going to, give you a stipend towards rent. And, it really outlines everybody's obligations so you know what you're getting yourself into.
And over the last few years, we've seen a lot of crazy contract disputes. You had who was it, Tfue, and then most recently like Dardoch for TSM. What kind of things in those situations do you feel like could have been prevented by like a proper contract? And I'm sure they do have proper contracts, but like, was there certain things you think that avoided these contracts?
Well, obviously I haven't really seen the full extent of them, but I think a common issue and mistake that I see from just, players I've talked to and people who may be in similar situations is you're really signing these agreements, 20, 30-page agreements prepared by, pretty high profile lawyers and not really understanding it or not really fully understanding it. And, the thing about it is that once you sign the agreement, unless they really kind of put a gun to your head or was like torturing you, like it's probably going to be enforceable.
Hmm.
So, I think it's just more the players themselves not understanding that, okay, like maybe I should spend a little money or, get a second opinion. Maybe my mom and dad don't know, that much about it. They don't really understand how likeness rights work and how buyouts and, like how these things can happen and how maybe, one night you're just a streamer and then overnight you become a superstar. And,
Hmm.
you have to have this flexibility that a professional in the industry might kind of foresee and be like, okay, well, right now I have 100,000 followers. If I get a million followers, then you should pay me more money and I should get, a bigger streaming revenue cut or something.
Hmm.
Like as someone who's in the industry, you would understand how to try to negotiate and structure the contract to
Yeah.
have these kind of outs and these escalators and, so that you don't feel like you're getting taken advantage of, 2 or 3 years into a multi-year deal.
And see, you mentioned something like 20 to 30 page contracts. Like there has to be so much verbiage in there that even like an adult as I like wouldn't understand. Like how do you break that down and convey that to the person signing the contract?
I mean, that's, what I went to school for and what I've been kind of do. Like I'm a, contract negotiator, whether it's, record deals and publishing contracts or, licensing deals or merch or, player deals. So it's really just being able to understand what the contract says and explain it to the client and then explain, what this means, the implications of it that, if you sign this as it says, this, and this, but maybe we can try to edit it to kind of protect you like this.
No, okay.
And it's really just kind of going through the agreement and sometimes you go line by line, section by section, where you're kind of really explaining it to them what they mean and how we might go about better protecting yourself.
So that yeah, that brings me to my next topic. Like literally segues into it. So when you guys are structuring a contract, are there typically negotiations between the owner and player, and are you on both sides? Or do the owners have their also have their own lawyers as well?
Well, yeah, I mean, I would say that most situations, the owners, especially if you have a big tier one org, you have, attorneys, and especially if you got these multi-million-dollar investments, you're probably using some of their lawyers. But as a player, you usually should have your own. So there really shouldn't be situations where an attorney is representing both parties, the
Hmm.
team and the player, because, there's definitely some conflict of
Conflict of
interest there.
interest, yeah.
So, obviously, the way it should be in an ideal world is that both parties, the team and the player, have their own attorneys who negotiate the deal and come to a fair and reasonable agreement based on the situation.
So at what point, like you had mentioned earlier, 100K to a million, at what point do you think a player should seek that professional advice to, well, when going over a contract? Like, is it anywhere from like all the way at the bottom of tier three to, or just like specifically when you're like specifically getting into the tier two or tier one orgs?
I mean, generally, I guess any lawyer or anyone would say, like, you got to understand what you're signing, especially if it has, really long term implications. Like, if you're signing like a 2 week deal or a month deal that doesn't really have any options, okay, like you could do something, but the potential long term impact on your career might not be as substantial as if you sign like, a 3 or 5 year or, a multi year deal where you're really locking yourself up for a long period of time.
Yeah.
So, I do think that, no matter money, you should understand what you're signing and understand, like, oh, I'm signing this 2 year deal, but there's an option for another year. And, this is how much I'm getting. And this is how they can trade me or sell me or buy me out. It's,
Hmm.
there are a lot of things that go into it. And if you don't really understand them, then, you might enter into something that you thought said something, but it actually meant something else. And, that puts you in a pretty bad position.
Yes, I mean, and you just brought up if you don't understand something, and that brings me to my next question. Mobile has exploded massively over the last 4 years with PUBG, COD Mobile, Clash Royale, Brawl Stars, and these minor contracts. How do they differ from an adult contract, and what are some kind of like the verbiage or the signals in there that they need to look for player and owner side that can void a contract because seen so many nasty disputes and stuff behind the scenes. What kind of things should a player look for, and what kind of things should a owner specifically put for and require for these minors?
Well, yeah, I mean, the thing about a minor who's, anyone that's under 18 in, the US at least, is that their contracts in most states are voidable, which means, after they turn of age, they could potentially terminate it. But, what you do, and if you're a team owner to kind of keep the contract a bit more, to strengthen and make it more enforceable, you might have, their parent or legal guardian sign as well. But the real thing, and this really kind of originates from like the Hollywood and entertainment world, where you have these, 13 child, 10-year-old child actors that you sign to multi-year deals. So you actually can go to the court and the court, the judge can make a contract enforceable and be like, okay, they're giving you this much money it was negotiated fairly by attorneys. Your parents are okay with it, and we don't want you to be able to get out of it 2 years later when you're 18 years old, and now you can renegotiate for so much more. You think about someone like Mary Kate and Ashley Olsen. Well, we don't really know what their deal is. They started as pretty much babies on a TV show
Mhm.
and kind of grew up decades later, and then continued on. So it's like you were pretty much a child actor for like 15 years.
Mhm.
So it's like you have to make sure that these agreements, are really enforceable, and that's kind of another route you can take.
Mhm. So as like a former owner of a organization, one of the questions I was always brought or people always ask me is like, say I sent product out to someone and then they voided or left their contract. People always ask me why am I not going after them? And I specifically said because to me it's more time and headache to get like a lawyer and then have all that stuff be sent to them, and the long term effect is not worth the outcome for me. But in the future moving forward, for some of these other owners and organizations, they're sending out contracts, sending out salaries, and sending out product for their teams to use. What kind of things and I guess retribution can happen for these players that do void their contracts and try and run off with like the goods that they got while under contract?
Well, obviously, it really kind of depends on what the contract says. So if it says, "Hey, we're giving you these laptops or this new PC, but when you're no longer with us, you have to return it," and they don't do it, then they're kind of breach of contract. As you mentioned, you always have to kind of do a cost benefit analysis. Like, a $200 headset, is it worth, whatever it's going to cost in legal fees? Probably not. But a five to $10,000 beautiful, fully customized computer, then it might be worth, spending some money to try to, recover it, especially if your agreement says they have to return it to you. That like this isn't something we're just giving to you.
Hmm. Absolutely. So as the esports scene continues to rapidly grow, especially now with the time that we're in, with streamers and content creators and players just doing as much as they can during this time. What do you think we can do to improve the culture? As some of the traditional sports people still kind of look at esports as this wild, wild west. They don't understand it. What are some of the things that you personally think we can do to improve the culture?
I mean, I think people need to start realizing that, this isn't the Wild West anymore, and that, this is a professional industry the same way music, sports, fashion, modeling, art. These are these creative industries in the entertainment world. And now you have millionaires and billionaires investing. So the game has changed, and, the people involved in it have to approach it that way. They have to look at themselves, as a real business, not just kids playing a video game in
Hmm.
their basement, and they really have to approach it that way. Form business entities, get the corporation or LLC, file appropriate taxes. Begin trademarking and protecting their brand, their gamer tag, their team name. They have to start approaching it that way because the industry has changed. You have millions of dollars being invested in it constantly, to where now you have to approach it like it's this, multi-billion-dollar industry that, Forbes and all these publications say it is.
I love how you said approach it as a business. For some of these younger players growing up, how important is it for them to be professional on all social media platforms, and just learn to grow and be mature? Because I noticed the younger demographic, they're younger, they're not as mature. How important is that to them in, I guess from a lawyer side, looking at from, hey, you could get signed by these people, but you have some literature that's online that they don't want to see, and that could, potentially hurt your chance to sign with a team.
Yeah, I mean, you have to realize that, especially in this digital age, everything you say is probably going to live forever. You don't know who's watching and who's screenshotting. And just because you delete something doesn't mean one day it's not going to come out. And, while it's a scary thing to be, a 10, 11, 12-year-old kid posting on Twitter, realizing what you say now is going to be brought up 5 years later when you're 18 or 19, like that's a scary thing. Like,
Hmm.
I'm sure everyone knows some of the bigger people in the industry who, maybe had tweeted some things when they were 16 or 17 years old. And, now when they're 20 years old, 25 years old, they come back and it's like, you know, I did it. I'm sorry. Like, that's not who I am. And, hopefully you created a good enough reputation that people will just be like, okay, like he was just a kid blowing steam, making a mistake. We all make mistakes when we're kids,
Hmm.
but you have to realize that there are ramifications. And, I always use the example of, you're not going to be able to work with a Disney and Nabisco, one of these Fortune 500 family friendly brands, if, you're cursing on stream and you're, being scandalous and doing all these things that might not be PG rated.
Correct, correct, absolutely. So you mentioned that you played StarCraft, StarCraft 2, and all that. And if you had an opportunity right now and you could turn back time, would you rather be a pro player in your favorite game or a streamer, a big content streamer? And what game would you want it to be in?
So this was a great question. I was like, okay, like I'm just loving the NBA 2K League, and I just love NBA
Oh,
2K.
such a great
I
thing.
I pretty much play 2K almost every day, and I'll definitely be playing tonight into the night. But realistically, if you're like, what would I do for a monetary standpoint? Without a doubt, it would be a content streamer, a creator, because I think the platform and the kind of what you can do with it, where one day you can play this game and next day you can play the next game and you can play whatever the hot this game is. And you can really just kind of go with the tide and you're not stuck playing, Overwatch every single day because you're a pro Overwatch player or CSGO, you know, 25 hours out of every 24 because
Mm-hmm.
that's your title.
Yep.
I think that it also you have a lot more flexibility to just chat or ask me anything or do a lot more creative engagement that's not solely based on winning tournaments, winning league games, and really kind of prepping that comes with those kind of intense matches.
Absolutely. I love that you play the 2K League. I was so excited. My buddy plays 2K, and when they announced the first 2K League and they had the draft and everything, he kind of didn't believe me, and then I was showing him everything. He's like, "Wait, what? You can get drafted?" I was like, "Yes, man, I'm telling you, esports
Yeah, they
is a
went on the
thing."
stage at Madison Square
Yes, it is
Garden.
so amazing. It was
I mean,
Dimes, right? He was the number one pick
yep.
overall.
Yeah, and I actually, my apartment was about like 10 minutes from the studio in New York City. So for the first two seasons, I was there almost every week, just
Oh, that's
kind of
so
checking it
cool.
out. There really is not that much consistent live esports in New York. So it was one of the few things that, a few days a week for a couple months, there were these live, 2K games.
That's so cool. That's so cool. Anything that we didn't talk about, or anything that we missed, or something that you wanted to further elaborate on, you can go ahead and do that right now.
Well, yeah, I think that kind of my biggest point, as I'm sure you've heard me say throughout, is people in this industry have to realize that calling it the Wild West doesn't work anymore. Like there's too many people, too many real people that are worth too much money and do things on too big a scale for it to be approached that way. And team owners and players that are like, oh, it's only $1,000, only $2,000 a month, whatever. They have to realize that yeah, maybe that's what it is for you right now, but you don't know what a month from now, 3 months from now, a year from now, like the industry changes so much where one day you have this game that everyone loves, then out of nowhere a new one comes and you happen to be really good at it and you go on a crazy kill streak and now your clip goes viral and now you get on a radar of a team.
Hmm.
And I have a client who that exact thing happened to him where he was good in one game, this new game came out and he got really great at it, started to play with some of the bigger streamers, and as a result of that his numbers skyrocketed. He got signed by an org as their one of their players, and he's making thousands of dollars a month when he was just a couple months before that was just streaming and playing another game.
Yeah, that's 100% true. I think one of the important things is just always be prepared and be ready. And I think one of the old sayings in like Hollywood when I was a lot younger, agents used to tell me, "You want this so bad, but if you get it, are you actually ready to do it?" So I think right now with how fast esports is growing, and you mentioned like massive names coming into it, like people have to be ready, prepared, and have a plan. I think having a plan is super important as well. But make sure you guys check out Justin's YouTube as well. I have the link in the description. He also has some great podcasts. Been listening to those as well. It's at Justin J ESQ on Twitter. Any final thoughts or shout outs?
Well, yeah, like you said, just check me out on Twitter, Justin JESQ. My DMs are open, so if you ever have a question, And jacobsonfirm.com has a bunch of really great useful articles that will hopefully give you some guidance if you're trying to get in the industry as you're a team owner and run your own org, or as a player or streamer and trying to do it the right way.
Right. Well, I appreciate you being on the show. Thank you everybody for watching. Please go check out his channels, like and subscribe and all that fun stuff. I am Legacy, saying thanks for watching and peace.